Hey, what up, world? It's Brian Wright. Welcome back to another episode of Courage to Change. This week, I sit down with Abby Johnson. Abby's 3 years sober in recovery. Caitlin was fortunate enough to go out and track down one of Abby's closest friends, Rachel Peralt, who says about Abby that she's resilient, willing, and honest. Check it out. All right, welcome back to another episode of Courage to Change. I'm Brian Wright. This week, I got my good friend, Abby Johnson. What's up, girl? Man, so I've been knowing Abby for about a year, a little over a year. And we share the anxiety thing and the depression and the self-harm. And she's 3 years. She got a little bit more time than me. She's a little further up the road, up the pathway in her recovery. And she's one of those people that I watch and I see her life changing. I see her reaching new levels in her life, and it's just a pleasure and a blessing to watch. It's so intriguing and it's so attractive that I wanted to ask her to share her story with us on Courage to Change. Abby, let's start with background and bottom.
Okay.
Who is Abby Johnson?
We're gonna start with family, like where I grew up.
Sure.
Okay. I grew up in a household with a lot of addiction and a lot of alcoholism. I think my bottom kind of started like before I even got into drugs and alcohol. I was really scared and I was really depressed as a child. I started self-harming at a very young age before I ever took a drink. And it was medication after medication. It was therapy. It was trauma therapy. We were going through all that stuff at a very young age. And so I struggled a lot as a child, and it had a lot to do with me, but it also had a lot to do with my circumstances. I was in a really bad place, and there wasn't a lot of safety, and there wasn't a lot of security growing up. And I carried that with me. When I was 13 or 14, I was finally moved into a safer place, but I still carried that trauma, and I still carried that uncertainty and that fear with me. And I started drinking and doing drugs around the age of, I think it was 11 or 12, and it was everything to numb the pain. I was self-harming along with that, and drugs and alcohol were the only thing that kept me going 90% of the time. And I still, like I said, I carried that depression and I carried that anxiety, and now on top of that, I'm 14 years old and I'm carrying PTSD, and it was horrible. Like, loud noises and people that were angry, like all of that stuff just set me off, and I didn't feel safe and I didn't feel comfortable unless I was drunk or unless I was high. And so that's part of I think that's part of what kept me going so long, is that it numbed that pain and it numbed a lot of that fear and that trauma response that I had. That's a little bit of my background.
Okay, so what does your bottom look like? So because you got sober, so you're 19.
Yeah, so I got sober at 15.
Wow.
My bottom had a lot less to do with, I'd say, how much I was drinking and how much I was using. It was more about how I felt. I had no quality of life and I had no desire to live anymore.
Right.
There was most days I woke up and I didn't want to wake up.
Right.
And there were the foxhole prayers, God, take me now.
Right.
Or God, just take me away from where I am. Either make my life better or make me not have a life.
Right. I can completely identify with that.
Yeah. It was when I didn't want to be alive anymore. That was my bottom. When the drugs and the alcohol and the self-harm, none of it worked anymore. That was my bottom.
Okay, and so you don't have any charges or anything?
I don't have any charges. I had a few minor arrests. I had some court cases, and it was all dropped.
And never been admitted to a ward?
No,
a mental
psychiatric ward.
Right.
I was when I was 9, when I was a child, before I started, but I never really experienced that in my addiction.
Okay, and then so turning point. When did you? When was enough for you? And when did you have an awakening or a glimpse of one?
So when I was 15, I had, it was right around the time that I had. I started self-harming again, and I was running away from home back to back to back, and I got arrested a couple times for breaking curfew and running away. And my grandparents had just had enough, and they took me to treatment. And that really wasn't something I wanted for myself. But what happened in treatment was, for the first time, like, in my life, since I was a child, for the first time I woke up one morning and I was okay with who I was and where I was at. And I was happy. And I had never experienced that before. And a lot of that fear and a lot of that uncertainty was gone. And I realized at that point, like, if I kept doing the things that I was doing, I didn't need drugs and alcohol to feel okay. I didn't need to self-harm. I didn't need, need the things that I had been doing, that I could live a different life and I could be okay.
Right.
And I could still take care of myself.
That's awesome. So who are some of the people along the way that helped you turn the corner?
I definitely say my grandparents. We had some struggles. They did the best they could raising, a 15-year-old. My grandparents did help me a lot. They got me into treatment. Paul and Jessica kind of took me under their wing when I was 15 going on 16. They fed me, they let me stay at their house, they took care of me when I didn't have anyone else to do that. And they kind of showed me, like, how to be an adult. They more or less raised me in sobriety. So I went to when I got out of treatment, I had gone to the sober school, and I don't know how many people really know about that, but a lot
Is that
of
the
people,
one in Texas?
No.
So they have
one here.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
It's on 70th and Classen.
What's it called?
It's called Mission Academy and then Teen Recovery Solutions.
Okay.
So it was more the peer group that helped me, but like the recovery coaches and the counselors and even the teachers there, those were the people that had the most impact on me, because I was there, 6 days a week, I think. I was always surrounded by these people. And what they really showed me was how to have fun in recovery for the first time. So I experienced, I went out of state for the first time with them. We went on day trips, we went bowling, we played pool, we did all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And that was my first exposure to fun in recovery. And those people were people that had a huge impact on my life, and some of them are still there. Some of them graduated there and are now recovery coaches there.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so out of all those the people that you've met there, what stands out as far as a principle that you practice today in your life, like in your relationships or at work?
I'd say a lot of it is the love and tolerance. Utmost love and tolerance for people, because it's, you think about the sober school and it's a bunch of children basically that are drug addicts and alcoholics, and we're stupid and we're mean and we do a lot of crazy stuff. And I really learned how to have the utmost love and tolerance for those people. They showed me how to do that, and they showed me how to have patience, and they showed me how to have forgiveness for those people. And I was just as angry as they were.
Yeah.
And what I learned is that I didn't have to carry that anger with me.
Yeah.
They're just as sick as I am.
Right. That was a lot of things. That's still, I guess that was the biggest thing for me, was having self-compassion for,
Mm-hmm.
love and tolerance for myself,
Mm-hmm.
Forgiving myself and stop holding on to the anger. Because I grew up confused, no identity. I searched for an identity in you,
Yeah.
Because I looked up to you, and because I didn't like myself,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And so I can completely agree with you with the love and tolerance. And then for me, I have to learn how to not so much be selfish, but selfless,
Mm-hmm.
and focus on the other centered, while allowing God to change me, to change the things in me that I think that are weird. You know what I mean? That
Change the things you don't like about yourself.
right. And how that's one of my prayers is help me see myself the way you see me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And help me see others the way you see them.
Mm-hmm.
Type of deal. But okay, so you just got a job at Pace Butler.
Mm-hmm.
How's it going there?
It's going good.
Is it? It's a good environment to work in,
Yeah.
right?
It's definitely a change of scenery. It's 7 to 5 in an air-conditioned office versus working in a hot restaurant all day.
Right,
It's a lot
right.
better.
Right, and then So what I wanted to say, you are super active, like in recovery, and like you have a lot of service commitments, and you always have something good to say.
Yeah.
The solution is strong in you. I admire you.
Part.
Yeah, for the most part, and I admire you for that, and that's another key reason why I wanted to interview you. And so like vision, like where do you see yourself in 3 to 4, maybe even 5 years from now, in a like perfect world, maybe?
I think in a perfect world, like, it's a tough one. I would like to be able to give as much of myself as I can to others in need.
That's good stuff.
I mean, that would be like my best hope, because I have a lot of people right now that have looked out for me, that have helped me out when I needed it. And I would, like, in the perfect world, I would have a good job, and I would have like a house of my own, and I would be able to pick people up whenever they needed rides.
Right. That's good.
And I would have the things that I needed just to provide for others.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. I love it. Because I share that, so like that's one of my future visions is I want to be able to be in a position to help people out, because I feel like that's what life's all about, and that's how I stay. That's how I stay sober.
Yeah.
Is when I do something for you, or I invest in your goals, and I'm other centered, and I think my life goes a lot smoother that way and it keeps me out of my head, right?
Yeah.
So okay, so superhero or superpower, and if you could be a superhero, what would it be and why? And if there's a superpower, what would that superpower be, and how would you use it to help people?
I think like on this superhero note, like I don't think that I have this idea of like Superman or Batman or like any of the Avengers. Like it's not something like that. It's just like when I was a kid, I would watch like a lot of those like action movies, superhero movies, and it's like my only hope was that someone would come and rescue me.
Right.
Like that's what I wanted. And it was the DHS workers and it was the police officers, all these people that had seen what I was going through and didn't do anything about it. And I would like to be the person that could for somebody.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Okay, so what would you say to anyone out there that can identify with your story, with one of your passions? What would you say to someone out there still struggling, as far as a piece of advice?
I'd say give it a chance.
That's good.
I didn't really have a choice to give it a chance. I did fall in love with recovery, but I think that like had I had the chance to do it on my own, I wouldn't have.
Right.
So my advice to someone else would be to give it a chance for yourself. Don't wait
Right.
until somebody else has to do it for you.
Right. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was like, recovery. Okay, I know I have to stay sober because I got these charges. You know what I mean? I'm trying to stay out of jail. And I was skeptical. And then until something clicked. And I saw God.
And it doesn't take very long. Either.
Right. And
once you give it like that one little chance, and that's what it was for me. Is I had a week to figure out that this is what I wanted to do and this is what I was committed to.
Right.
And that's all it took for me.
And I heard that one share that the glimpse of that share or snippets of that share was my story. And then all right. So yeah. So okay, last question is I nevers. So what's an I never for you, maybe in your addiction or coming out of addiction, living in the solution for you?
Like an I never
Like I never thought in my addiction, I never thought I'd be sleeping on rooftops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or and then in the solution, it's like I never thought I'd be doing a video podcast.
I think in my addiction, I never thought that I would steal from my parents.
Right.
And granted, like they couldn't do a whole lot for me, but I never thought that I would be the person taking, the last $8 they have off the kitchen counter and running with it. just to buy drugs.
Right, I did that.
I never thought that I would, steal everything that someone had left, and especially not from the people that I love.
Right. Okay.
So, and then I never in recovery.
Yeah.
I definitely never thought that I would stay sober for 3.5 years.
Me too.
I
was talking to Brandon Watson the other day, and on the phone, and I was like, bro, I can't believe it that I'm 3 years sober. I never thought that would be a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I fully went, by the time I got out of treatment, I fully intended on staying sober, but
Right.
I never thought that I could do it this
Right.
long. I never thought that I would make it this far. I kind of just assumed for a long time that at some point it was going to come crashing down and I would have to start over.
Right.
And I haven't yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
Right.
Something
You're
that I hear
eligible
people,
too.
Well, yeah, something that I hear people say a lot is sobriety is a daily reprieve contingent on
Yes.
the maintenance of my spiritual condition.
Right.
And that can falter at any time if I'm not doing the work I need to do.
Right.
So it's always a yet. It's
Right.
day by day.
Right, that's good stuff. But I can see that in your life, I see the blockage being removed.
Yes.
So, and I see you drawing closer, like to life and to the fellowship of recovery. And it's such a joy and a pleasure to do life with you, Abby. And I never thought that we would be having this conversation the day one I met you, because I remember you didn't even, you wouldn't say a word to me. You wouldn't even...
I don't talk to men a lot.
Right. And I was like, what was this? Did I say something or do something? Okay.
But just a little bit timid.
Yeah, this is cool. Okay, so, all right, I think we're done here. Thank you for watching this episode of Courage to Change with Abby Johnson. I'm Brian Wright. Grace and peace until next week.
Bye.